This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
Welcome to 2025 Educators. This is episode 876 of the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with a new feature I'm calling News, Tips, and Tools You Can Use. And today we're going to talk about that recent update to Apple Intelligence and what it means for the classroom. So in December 2024, I updated my iPhone and my iPad to iOS 18.2, and I updated my Mac to the Sequoia version. And Apple Intelligence is available for those versions. However, my iPhone is a little bit older. You need to have the iPhone Pro 15 or any of the 16 models in order to access Apple Intelligence. And you need to have one of the iPads with M1 or higher of certain models. So you need to check those to see if it's available. My older iPhone accesses some things, but it pretty much doesn't have Apple Intelligence in it. Now, when you update, you go in and there's an Apple Intelligence feature, and there's a lot of different things that you have to set up. And sometimes when you go on your devices, it will ask you, do you want to set up Apple Intelligence and turn on writing tools and turn on all these different tools? So it'll ask you those questions. Now, I have a ChatGPT Pro version. Apple, if you buy it through Apple, they're taking a 30% cut. I do not recommend that you buy it through Apple because then you're tied to having an Apple account. So I have a ChatGPT Pro account personally. So when I went into Apple Intelligence, I was able to click and just sign in to my personal ChatGPT account. That makes ChatGPT available inside any of my desktop writing tools. So I use a tool called Ulysses to draft the scripts for my podcasts and TV and radio shows. And in there was a thing called writing tools. So I was able to right click and the tools will proofread, rewrite, make friendly, make professional, make concise, summarize, create key points, make a list, make a table. And then at the end, you can click compose. So what that does on my Mac is it actually pops up a box that enables me to access ChatGPT directly from within Ulysses, Microsoft Word, all that sort of thing. Now, I want to talk about this summarization feature for just a second. And my husband got a new grill for Christmas, and we were talking about, summarizing. And he said, well, I can get a recipe for something I'm going to barbecue by these experts, but I have to watch their videos because there's so many things that they don't put in the recipe that make a huge difference. We don't want people going through med school getting everything summarized. There's a lot of knowledge that happens, and a lot of the knowledge that we transfer as teachers is something called tacit knowledge. It may be knowledge that we don't even know that we know, but the simple interaction with us as a subject matter expert will transform our students. For example, a lot of times I talk about SEO or search engine optimization in my classes with my 8th graders and 9th graders. And I find at the end of a semester with me, my students actually know quite a bit about SEO. Well, SEO is not in my curriculum, and in many ways, it's tacit knowledge. In 2025, I will celebrate 20 years of blogging at the Cool Cat Teacher blog, which kind of blows my mind. But there is something that happens that's a beautiful, wonderful thing that as students interact with teachers who are artisans and know their topic, that they absorb and they learn things that AI could just never capture. In fact, when they train AI to take over people's jobs, that's one of the biggest challenges is how do I capture the tacit knowledge? Now, when you go into your web browser, I've tested this in Safari and in Chrome. When you highlight text and right click, writing tools does not appear there. But if you go to edit, you will see writing tools there. So basically, if a student has Apple Intelligence, they can access the writing tools from Apple Intelligence right inside Google Docs. Now, in a personal Google Doc, So just remember that even if a student doesn't have Apple Intelligence, they can highlight the text that says refine the selected text. And the options are rephrase, custom, more formal, more casual, bullets, and summarize. But you're not off the hook because you can go to custom and students can access Gemini inside Google Docs. So if they go in their web browser to edit and writing tools, they can access Apple Intelligence features, the basic ChatGPT, and if they have ChatGPT Pro, they can access it. But they can also, on a Mac, running Apple Intelligence, access it within Word and any other writing tool as well. Also, remember that a lot of these features are available for Copilot in a PC. So what's happening is all the apps, all the tools, every single thing that our students use is now having the ability to write and summarize built in. Now, I want to make a point here that you have to have knowledge in order to supervise artificial intelligence because artificial intelligence makes mistakes. So my friend Dawn, who I have coming on an upcoming show about writing, she actually has a lot of the writing now happen in her classroom. Students are writing, they're outlining and all that sort of thing, and then they're bringing in their final draft that they're writing. We do need to know that many of our students are dysgraphic, for example, and they may have to use a computer. In addition to writing, students can paste in your rubric, they can get formative feedback on their writing. The process becomes far more important than the product in today's teaching. We need to supervise the process. How are students researching? How are they writing? Looking in there and being able to see how things change as they write. So if you want to hear more about this, I've talked about it quite a bit in a previous Cool Cat Teacher talk show that you can access at coolcatteacher.com/talk AI. Now, the second thing that this can do is in the calculator that is on the phone or on the iPad, there's a new calculator button in the bottom left called Math Notes. When you click that, the student will open up something called Math Notes, and then they can take a picture of their textbook. They can take a picture of that IXL problem on the screen, whatever they want to take a picture of, and it will solve the problem for them. As I was doing my research and preparing for today's show, I actually came across a person talking about Math Notes and said, physics students, I'm about to make your day because it will do all of your physics homework for you. I believe we're going to continue to see a difference between the grades that students are making and their test scores. In fact, just a few years ago, the ACT accused schools of grade inflation. They said that students don't know math like schools say they know math. Well, I don't believe that schools are grade inflating intentionally. What I think is happening is that students are using photo math, those that can afford it or have a phone or know how to solve those problems. Well, now, basically, it's available for just about anybody who can afford the newer Apple. It's right there in Math Notes. There's another thing that's happened that can be good or not so good. So I've written about it before, how I've basically used ChatGPT I've trained it to ask me questions in order to get an article out or write something. So basically, I would use it as an interviewing type tool. Well, those features have come a long way, and you can record a voice memo and get a full transcript of everything you record and easily turn that into an article, and our students can draft and do that as well. Now, I talked about this in my Cool Cat Teacher talk show, coolcatteacher.com/talk writing, about all of the tools and how to teach with them and how to use it. So if you want to dig into writing, that's your resource for now that you can use. But there's this new feature on phone calls made on the iPhone for those who have Apple Intelligence. And you can click a button and it will tell both people, do you give permission for this to be recorded? And then it will record both of it. It will save it into your notes with the recording and a summary, and you will be able to view the transcript. But this is what we need to know. Even if you don't hear those words, all somebody has to do is take their phone, put you on speakerphone, and there are a myriad of tools that will transcribe for free and capture every single thing that you've said, both in a recording and in a transcript. So we're really in a world where we need to know that just about every single thing can be recorded. And I know there's a lot of fear based upon, what has happened in Arizona. There's a new charter school that is going to be online completely. And they claim that they can use AI to teach everything that the student needs with academic subjects for 2 hours a day. And then the rest of the day, they're going to have leadership and public speaking and entrepreneurship and all these other topics. Now, this is for grades 4 through 8. But the one thing I'll say is any of us who taught through the pandemic and saw kids who came back into the schools after 2 years of at home and completely had zero social skills. Now, I'm not saying every single student was that way. And there are certainly many students who have benefited from online learning. So we can never label and we can never say one size fits all. But I can give you trends from 23 years of teaching. And the trend is that many of those kids who are at home, there are things I'm having to teach 8th and 9th graders that I really shouldn't have to teach 8th and 9th graders, social skills and interacting. So I am definitely not one who is going to believe that AI can completely replace teachers. Now, is there some low-hanging fruit? Are there some things that we can do? Yes. I use artificial intelligence to teach Python programming. I teach more Python programming than I could ever teach before. It's incredible. I teach it to 8th, 9th, as well as my AP Computer Science Principles class. And I had a 100% pass rate on the AP test for that course this past year, which was my first year of teaching it. And it was largely due to the fact that I used AI tools to help me in appropriate places. So now, what does this all mean? What this means is that artificial intelligence is available to all of our students. The last statistic I saw was that not even half of teachers had been trained on the effective use of artificial intelligence. Now, I know artificial intelligence gurus who are going around just thinking it's the greatest thing ever. This is like a sharp sword or a sharp knife. Got a really sharp knife this December, and it cuts great. As long as I'm cutting onions and potatoes and tomatoes and things that need to be cut, it's great. But that thing can cut my finger in a heartbeat, and I have to be really, really careful with it. Likewise, artificial intelligence is a super sharp, useful tool that has to be supervised because it can endanger our students' education if we don't use it wisely. And if we don't adjust policies, I think this is going to push many of us towards changing how we view homework and the types of things we give as homework so that we don't exacerbate the AI divide. We've always had a digital divide, and now we've got an AI divide. And we need to just assume that all of our students have access. We need to teach them how to use it appropriately. And we need to invest in professional grade tools for our teachers. Our teachers don't need to be using the plain Jane version of ChatGPT when there's so much power available in the full version. Most of the tools for teachers are just kind of built on top of ChatGPT. So I personally would rather just use ChatGPT Pro. You can also use Copilot and license it with your school. And that's really the best way to go because that keeps the confidential private data from going to a big tool like ChatGPT, which you don't want to do. So again, go to coolcatteacher.com/talk AI. And if you want to talk about writing, go to coolcatteacher.com/talk writing. So this brings us to what are we going to do? So the LA school district banned cell phones and many other school districts have banned it as well. Now, some parents are concerned about safety. So I know of other schools that have basically said your cell phone needs to belong in your locker. Certainly, there are a lot of reasons for that, but artificial intelligence just takes us to the next level. So as we finish up today's show, I want to give you a little bit of encouragement. First of all, don't be overwhelmed. I always talk about innovating like a turtle. To do that, it's 3, 2, 1. First, keep a list of 3 things you want to learn next. Second, twice a week for 15 minutes, pick one of those things and try it out. Then, one time a month, share something new that you've learned with someone else, because we know when we share it, it becomes more permanent. Don't be overwhelmed. You can't do everything at once. All growth is slow and incremental. Second, continue to read good books and realize the limitation of summarization. Don't fall into the trap to think that when something is summarized, that it is legitimized. For example, this past November, when I was looking up one of the posts I had written about how to have gratitude in the classroom, Google summarized the video and it wasn't even accurate. And I think about people who might look that up, and while it had the YouTube video to the right and it had the link down at the bottom, people are just going to read that summarization at the top of Google. I would caution against that, not just because it's killing the traffic to so many websites, but also because summarization is not always accurate. I really dove into this in my show, coolcatteacher.com/talk writing, where I talked about that experience. But if we're not teaching our teachers about it, if we're not teaching our students about it, they're just going to think that's the truth. I mean, how many years have we been talking about not quoting Wikipedia? And now AI is quoting Wikipedia, and it's AI. So now we've got even more errors, and we should care about truth and getting to the facts. The third thing is we need to understand the importance of relationships in the classroom. You have to relate to educate. And having those effective student relationships is more important than ever. Finally, handwritten resources. You can use them and use them wisely. Just remember, many of our students have IEPs, then they need to be accommodated. So we're going to have to become experts in all of the great ways that we can use artificial intelligence in the classroom. In December of 2024, the LA Times ran an article that I will be sharing in the show notes about how I use AI in the classroom. And the big part of using artificial intelligence in the classroom is talking about the ethics. The current ethics that I like to use, there's a middle school curriculum from MIT on artificial intelligence that is so powerful. And I take students through it the first and second day of class. Their life is going to be full of using artificial intelligence, but we need to use it in ethical ways. Haven't we learned from the social media disaster that has this generation lonely and depressed? Are we going to let technology also ruin their minds as well? I don't think we should, but I think also that artificial intelligence can help us do things that we couldn't do otherwise. I could talk more about this, but I will continue to have news, tips, and tools that you can use as a regular feature on the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. This is episode 876 of the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. Watch the video version of this podcast and catch my new radio and TV show, Cool Cat Teacher Talk, on YouTube and a radio or TV station near you. Join my Cool Cat Teacher Classroom Matters newsletter at coolcatteacher.com/newsletter. Leave a review if you found this helpful. See you later, educator.